Hundreds of women were poisoned and killed by their employers, their bodies slowly deteriorating as they painted watch faces with glow-in-the-dark paint, unaware that the very substance that made their work possible was also killing them. The year was 1917, and the United States had just entered World War I, with the demand for glow-in-the-dark watches skyrocketing, particularly for military use. The women, mostly teenagers, were employed by companies like the United States Radium Corporation and the Waterbury Clock Company, where they worked long hours, often 6 days a week, painting the tiny watch faces with radium-laced paint. But here's where it gets dark: their employers knew the risks of radium poisoning. Yet they did nothing to protect their workers, instead encouraging them to moisten their brushes with their tongues, thereby ingesting small amounts of radium daily. The Radium Girls, as they came to be known, were mostly young, poor, and uneducated women who saw the job as an opportunity to earn a decent wage and gain some independence. They worked in factories in Orange, New Jersey, and Waterbury, Connecticut, where they were exposed to radium on a daily basis. The companies provided them with minimal training and no protective gear, despite the fact that radium was known to be highly toxic. As the years went by, the women began to fall ill, suffering from anemia, bone cancer, and necrosis of the jaw, a condition that caused their jawbones to disintegrate. Nobody talks about this part, but the women's bodies were literally glowing in the dark, a result of the radium that had accumulated in their bones. Catherine Donahue, one of the most prominent Radium Girls, would later become a key figure in the fight for justice. But at the time, she was just another worker, unaware of the dangers that lurked in the factory. As the women's health began to decline, they started to notice strange occurrences. Their teeth would fall out, their bones would ache, and they would experience severe fatigue. But here's the kicker: when they went to see doctors, they were often misdiagnosed or told that their symptoms were caused by everything from syphilis to hysteria. The companies had a vested interest in keeping the true cause of the women's illnesses a secret, and they used their wealth and influence to silence the women and their families. It wasn't until 1928, when 5 former Radium Girls from Orange, New Jersey, sued the United States Radium Corporation, that the truth began to come to light. The case, which was highly publicized, revealed the horrific conditions that the women had worked in and the extent of the company's knowledge about radium poisoning. And this is where everything fell apart. The company's defense was that the women had been warned about the dangers of radium, but the women had signed contracts stating that they would not hold the companies liable for any injuries sustained on the job. The trial was a watershed moment in the history of industrial poisoning and women's rights. The Radium Girls case sparked widespread outrage and led to changes in labor laws and workplace safety regulations. But the damage had already been done. Hundreds of women had been poisoned, and many had died. The case also highlighted the dark history of corporate greed and the exploitation of workers, particularly women. The Radium Girls story is a true crime tale that is both shocking and disturbing, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked corporate power and the importance of protecting workers' rights. As the trial came to a close, the women's voices were finally heard, but the consequences of their bravery would be far-reaching. The companies were forced to pay damages to the women and their families, but the amounts were often paltry, and the women's health was never fully restored. The Radium Girls case also led to a greater awareness of the dangers of radium and the need for stricter regulations on its use. The legacy of the Radium Girls can still be felt today. Their case led to significant changes in labor laws and workplace safety regulations, including the establishment of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration in 1971. The Radium Girls story has also been the subject of numerous books, films, and documentaries, ensuring that their memory lives on. But here's the thing: despite the progress that has been made, the Radium Girls story is still a dark and disturbing reminder of the dangers of industrial poisoning and the exploitation of workers. The true crime aspect of their story is a stark reminder of the horrors that can occur when Corporations are allowed to prioritize profits over people. And this is where the story gets even more disturbing. The Radium Girls case was not an isolated incident, but rather part of a larger pattern of corporate greed and exploitation that continues to this day. As we look back on the Radium Girls story, it's clear that their bravery and determination in the face of overwhelming odds was a testament to the power of the human spirit. But it's also a reminder of the importance of protecting workers' rights and ensuring that corporations are held accountable for their actions. The Radium Girls case was a watershed moment in the history of industrial poisoning and women's rights. But it's also a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked corporate power. And this is where the story takes a darker turn. The Radium Girls case was not just a tragedy, but also a crime. A crime that was perpetrated by corporations that prioritized profits over people. The fact that hundreds of women were poisoned and killed by their employers is a shocking and disturbing truth that should haunt us all. The aftermath of the Radium Girls case was marked by a sense of sadness and loss. The women's health was never fully restored, and many of them died young, their bodies ravaged by the effects of radium poisoning. But their legacy lives on. A reminder of the importance of protecting workers' rights and ensuring that corporations are held accountable for their actions. The Radium Girls story is a true crime tale that is both shocking and disturbing. A reminder of the dangers of industrial poisoning and the exploitation of workers. As we reflect on their story, it's clear that their bravery and determination in the face of overwhelming odds was a testament to the power of the human spirit. But it's also a reminder of the importance of protecting workers' rights and ensuring that corporations are held accountable for their actions. The Radium Girls case came to a close in 1938 when the last of the lawsuits was settled. But the impact of their story can still be felt today. The changes in labor laws and workplace safety regulations that resulted from their case have saved countless lives and prevented countless injuries. The Radium Girls story is a dark and disturbing reminder of the dangers of industrial poisoning and the exploitation of workers. But it's also a testament to the power of the human spirit and the importance of protecting workers' rights. And this is where the story ends, with a sense of sadness and loss, but also with a sense of hope and determination. The Radium Girls' legacy lives on. A reminder of the importance of protecting workers' rights and ensuring that corporations are held accountable for their actions. Subscribe for more stories like this. Stories that will shock and disturb you, but also inspire you to take action and demand justice.